I want to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 5 years old that started me down a path and a lifelong desire to protect people, innocent people. It was a moment I will never forget. I was the youngest of many children in our family. We were raised in poverty and in a dangerous neighborhood. Our neighborhood was a place of constant violence, racial tension, and gang activity. Police were always in our neighborhood, sometimes on our street daily or multiple times a day. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what the neighborhood was like so that you understand what we lived in. The neighbors across the street from us were violent criminals. They were dangerous, scary people. There were about 8 to 10 adults who lived there and some small children. The police were called to that house sometimes multiple times a day. The lady who lived next door to us, when she had had it on a given day with those neighbors, she would bring out a shotgun and rack around in it. And those neighbors would stop what they were doing because they were afraid of her, and they should have been. Now, she was a very nice lady to us, but she was just trying to protect her kids. My brothers and sisters had already started school. I was the only child still at home. When they went to school, they would be beat up, assaulted by the children, by other children at that school, and by those children's parents. My sister still has pictures of her being beat up by the kids and the parents. The person who took those pictures was my father. One of my other siblings had come home from school and told my father that one of my sisters was being beat up at school by the kids and the parents. So he walked down to school, took those pictures, turned around, and walked home. He did not intervene. He did not try to help her. He did not stop it. My father was not a very nice man. I remember one time I was walking to the store, and down at the corner of our street, there was a car lot, used car lot. And behind that used car lot, at the back of it, was a small office that was built up. It was elevated a bit. And there was a door at the front, and there was a door at the side to enter that small building. There were a couple of steps to walk up to the side door to enter, and a bit of a landing, a stoop that was covered. And as I walked by that building on the way to the store, I looked over and could see a very large pool of blood on that landing, fresh blood. I remember recognizing that as danger, but that was so commonplace in our neighborhood, in my life, that it didn't inspire me to turn around and run home. I just kept on walking to the store because that's the way we lived. One morning, my mother came home from working the graveyard shift, and she was crying. I asked her why she was crying. She told me that one of the women she worked with had gone home from work the morning before to several black, large trash bags on her front porch. Her husband was inside those trash bags, cut into pieces. That was the reality of where we lived, and that was the rough neighborhood I knew as a child. So now that you have a flavor for the neighborhood, what happened to me when I was young that sticks with me today? One day, when I was 5 years old and not yet in school, I was home with my mother, and I heard a commotion out in front of the house. I looked out the front living room window and I saw multiple police cars, 4 or more, at the neighbors across the street, the violent criminal people. And those officers were engaged in hand-to-hand combat, fighting with those neighbors. There were 4 or 5 officers. One of the bad guys picked up a rock and hit one of those officers directly in the center of the forehead. That officer didn't collapse straight down. He became stiff as a board and fell straight back onto the grass. I could see that he was bleeding and he wasn't moving. So I ran and got 2 washcloths. One I got damp. And without saying anything to my mother, I ran out that front door, across the street, and ran up to the officer who was down on the ground. I knelt down at his head and I put that damp washcloth on his forehead to stop the bleeding. I don't know how I knew to do that, and I wasn't brave. I just figured, well, I'm a 5-year-old kid. Nobody's going to bother me. And they didn't. The officer's eyes were closed. He was out like a light. I looked at that officer, and then I looked up at all of the fighting going on around me, the other officers and the people fighting them. And I understood that those police officers were there, sacrificing their lives to protect me. I knew that they were there to do what my own father wouldn't do for my family. I knew in that moment I wanted to be a police officer. I knew that I wanted to protect people who were innocent, just like they were protecting me. The police weren't just a presence in my neighborhood. They were the literal dam holding back a flood of even worse violence. And I wanted to be one of them. I wanted to be a protector, like they protected me. I went on to do that job, and it was a wonderful job. There's a reward in knowing that you made someone else who is innocent safe. If any of you listening grew up in an environment like I did, if you've seen what I've seen, and you have the slightest calling or pull to be a police officer, answer that call. Pursue it. I encourage you to do that. You bring a personal experience, like I did, that can't be taught in a book or in a lecture. Don't let that experience go to waste. You have an empathy for the innocent because you were the innocent. Go be someone else's protector. We need you. Take what helps you and leave the rest.